Hey everybody, welcome to Rock and Roll Shin-Soo, episode number 79. My name is Gabe Estel. I'm here with my co-hosts Dennis Levi Leach and Jonathan Getz. How's it going, guys?
Marvelous.
It's beautiful.
Wonderful.
Beautiful day.
Glad to hear it. Excellent. Well, I hope everybody's summer is off to a nice start. Tonight, we've got a fun show lined up. We're going to be talking about a special year in music and baseball as well, 1967. Now, 1967 was a sea change in music, baseball, and basically most of society. This was after all the summer of love in the middle of a year of civil unrest. The Beatles' transformation that started a couple of years prior with Rubber Soul and Revolver culminated with what turned out to be an absolute tsunami in Sgt. Pepper's. But the late 60s were about way more than just psychedelia and the evolution of rock, though there is certainly plenty of that to discuss. On any given week in 1967, you could find the Monkees, the Supremes, the Stones, Bobbie Gentry, or even the Doors at the top of the charts. The top of the American League was just as varied come September. The Twins, the Red Sox, and the Tigers all had a chance to finish atop the American League on the last day of the season. But it was the Red Sox, a team that finished in next to last place each of the prior two seasons, who prevailed, led by left fielder Carl Yastrzemski. Yaz won the 1967 American League Triple Crown, leading the impossible dream Red Sox to the World Series against Bob Gibson and the St. Louis Cardinals. All right, so let's start with Carl Yastrzemski. Let's start with Yaz and the Sox. So 1967, right? When you guys first told me about we wanted to do this episode, 50-year anniversary of that year, you mentioned 1967 in baseball. I just think Yastrzemski. That's like my default thought for 1967 in baseball. I was like, oh yeah, Carl Yastrzemski, right? And I'd forgotten that it was the Triple Crown. I just knew he was really good that year, but like kind of unprecedented good almost.
Right up until what? Mickey, it was the last Triple Crown.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So
that was a long time.
Yeah, and it was interesting because previous to 67, Yastrzemski was kind of known for a bit of a questionable work ethic. And there was a lot of infighting in that team, but in that 67 season, hitting 326, 44 home runs, 121 RBI. The only asterisk to the Triple Crown, I think, is the fact that he was actually tied in home runs for the league lead in home runs with Harmon Killebrew at 44 home runs. However, it's still technically the Triple Crown, and it's actually a bit more impressive than what Miggy Cabrera did in 2012 because Yaz led all of baseball in those categories, while Cabrera finished behind the NL's Buster Posey in batting average that year by about 5 points. So we're picking nits here, but it's still interesting. And Yaz, he hit his 44 home runs were 24 more than his previous career high, so he more than doubled. At the age of 27, that's not totally out of the question, but pretty surprising nonetheless.
All right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's impressive stuff. They were a heck of a team then, and he was a heck of a player then.
Yeah, I mean they came close, because the World Series that year went to 7 games. Cardinals eventually winning. And yeah, just great. I mean, great people on the field. I mean, obviously you had Gibson for the Cardinals, and then you also had a guy I'm going to talk a little bit about, Orlando Cepeda, as well, who I think most people associate with the Giants, but his MVP year that year, 1967, was with the Cardinals. He was with the Cardinals for 3 seasons. So talk a little bit about Cha-Cha as well. But yeah.
Just to note, also, I didn't realize this was just the year before, or no, might have been the year or 2 before they lowered the mound because of Bob Gibson.
Oh, right.
This is when he was still dealing high.
Dude, Bob Gibson, I mean, the original Madison Bumgarner, essentially.
Right.
Really, because Gibson came out through 3 complete games in the World Series, 26 strikeouts, 5 walks, only gave up 3 earned runs.
He's a stud.
He hit a home run in Game 7.
I think in 1970 he hit over 300 something.
Yeah. And
for the season.
He had broken his leg early in the year in 1967, too. Yeah. He was recovering from that.
Jesus.
Yeah, wow. We mentioned Killebrew, and I want to talk about Harmon Killebrew for a second.
Yeah.
June 3rd, 1967, Harmon Killebrew hits a home run 520 feet. And that was measured at the time in 1967. All baseball experts say that if they were using today's technology, it would have been over 600 feet.
That is insane, dude. That's almost like 2 home runs.
Yeah. Oh,
you know what I mean? Like if you
it's like field. 2 stadiums long.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I just thought that was amazing when I was reading about it.
Wow.
Yeah. The guy could crush.
And man, the killer played for like 20 years, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like Levi, you said 67. That it happened in 67, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he had already been in the league like 14 years at that point. And he came in the league at 18. Wow. Now, pop quiz. Jonathan should know this. What team did not until even 8 seasons after 1967? What team did Harmon Killebrew wrap up his career with? Don't look.
Actually, I don't know this.
He ended his career with the Royals.
Wow. I did not know that.
1975, yep.
Wow.
Played for the Royals.
Wow.
Yeah. And actually, no, he didn't. He still had a little bit of power. You know, he still had a little bit of pop, 14 homers, but he only hit 199 that year. So.
Oh, yeah.
And he was 39, and like it was kind of like Phil Niekro, Nolan Ryan syndrome. He looked like much older than 39. Right?
Like grandfather in the dugout type.
Right, yeah. You know, just kind of like premature gray. You know, just like he looked old.
He'd been on the road a long time.
Yeah, but that would in '67 he still would have been with the Twins.
Yep.
And he would have finished. He actually finished second, right behind Yaz, for the MVP that year.
Sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the MVP voting during then, and if they voted on it after the regular season but before the World Series, it had to always be skewed to the teams, to players on teams that made the World Series.
Yeah.
So.
Right. I guess so.
I mean, because how would it not be? You would be influenced by that, because there were some strong cases in the NL for MVPs, and Gabe, I'm sure you'll get to this with Cepeda, but I imagine that was often the case. It just came down to whoever won the pennant, give it to a guy on that team.
Right. Some interesting names on that Cardinals team that year too. You've got Steve Carlton, a pretty young Steve Carlton, I guess.
Yeah, he was. A rookie.
Okay, it was the rookie. Oh, yeah, rookie year, right? Yeah. I think, or
I think he was.
Maybe he came in '66. I'm not sure.
He came in 6. Yeah, well. Yeah, pretty much. He made an appearance, or he pitched 25 innings in 65, 52. So 67 would have looked like his first full season.
Although Tom Seaver won the NL Rookie of the Year, Rod Carew won AL Rookie of the Year. Not a bad pair.
No, not a bad. Right, I saw that for the Rookie of the Years in '67. I was like, damn. All right, there's 2 Hall of Famers.
Yeah,
right?
Not exactly like Eric Karros fall after that.
Oh yeah, it's not exactly Jerome Walton. No offense, Levi.
All right. Speaking of the Cubs, there wasn't much to talk about that year. I mean, Santo was by far the Cubs' leader. He only batted 300, but
he had MVP numbers.
Yeah, his OPS was 906. His slugging was 512. He had 31 homers.
Right.
It's mid-60s Cubs, so it's like Santo or Banks or Williams were probably going for the top of the team. And then the top pitcher was always Ferguson Jenkins. He was 20-13 with a 2.8 ERA.
Yeah. Also, back to that, hop to the Cardinals team for just a second.
Yeah.
Roger Maris wrapping up his career in St. Louis.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he played in 67 and 68 with the Cardinals.
Right. Yeah.
So end up getting one last World Series before.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, for sure. Gabe, just to get your team in the discussion, the White Sox, they were actually competing there for a while in September in the AL.
Yeah, they finished about 4 games over 500 that year, I think. But it looked like they kept it interesting at least until the end of the season.
Right. Sorry, they kept it close.
Plugging it. Sorry.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I found a story in the Sports Illustrated vault from August of '67, and they were trying to the White Sox were trying to psych out Yastrzemski facing the Red Sox. And so I'll quickly read this paragraph. Eddie Stanky of the White Sox started the psych a few weeks ago when he called Yastrzemski an all-star from the neck down. The same day Yastrzemski read Stanky's remark in the papers, he received a telegram that read, "Stanky's trying to psych you like Red Auerbach psychs Wilt Chamberlain. Don't get mad. Signed, an Angel." Then Yastrzemski went out that day and got 6 hits in a doubleheader against the White Sox. He hit a home run, and as he rounded third, he looked into the dugout and tipped his hat at Stanky.
That's
with a name like Stanky, that story had to be good.
Yeah, that's fun baseball right there, man.
That's right.
That's the way it should be. Yeah. The White Sox that year, we had Will, it was a relatively strong season, but not good enough to get totally over the hump. But we didn't really have much in terms of hitting. Our starting 9, the highest average is 241.
Whoa.
So yeah, right. Everybody else just basically hovers between 225 and 241. And then, we had some strong pitching, though, because we had Tommy John pitching with us. And then we had Wilbur Wood was a strong pitcher. Hoyt Wilhelm was still going as well. I would think. Let me just double check. I would think that would be near the end of his career. I would guess.
Sure.
Yes. Jesus Christ. Hoyt Wilhelm pitched until he was 49.
Wow. Right on.
The original.
I had no idea. Wow. Jesus. I'm kind of embarrassed to say I didn't know he pitched that long. So in 67, he was 44 pitching for the White Sox.
Jeez.
And
so 5 years left.
5 good years left, right?
Yeah, right, huh? That's insane, man. Wow. Yeah.
His arm had to be just like jelly, you would think, by the end
of
that.
Yeah, his first year was in 52. Didn't come into the league until he was 29.
Whoa. Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's
late.
It's just 20 years and not starting until 29. It's an interesting story.
Yeah.
And then killer rookie year too with the New York Giants. He went 15-3, 2.43 ERA, 4th in MVP, and looks like I think he probably won the Rookie of the Year. I would guess if you're finishing 4th in the MVP rating. But anyway, So 67. If I could switch a little bit to the Cardinals, obviously very stacked Cardinals team that year. So just kind of looking at that lineup. Let me just pull it up here. You've got Curt Flood putting up an MVP caliber season. You've got Bob Gibson. You've got Dick Hughes. You've got Lou Brock still with the Cardinals as well.
Who was big in the World Series? Had 7 stolen bases.
Tim McCarver. We just trying to pull up the regular season stats.
Yeah, Roger Maris that year had 9 home runs, 55 RBI, so he was modest.
Yeah, right. You could make a case that year that Curt Flood could have been, just as valuable almost as Cepeda. He hit 335, but he played in 15 fewer games.
Okay.
So, take that back. Cepeda had 25 home runs, 111 RBIs, and then
I would say Lou Brock would maybe compete for that.
Yeah. Lou Brock hit 299, 21 homers, 76 RBIs, and then obviously the big stolen base total, 52. And then he had over 200 hits that year, too.
It's like one of the original worst trades the Cubs ever made.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just obviously Brock, Cepeda, and Flood, having those three in your lineup, it doesn't really matter who the other guys are. You know what I mean? With those three. Yeah, you know, obviously Gibson as well. But to talk about a little bit about Orlando Cepeda a little bit, Cha-Cha. You know, kind of a sort of a he had, you know, a troubled life, really, and got through a lot of those troubles he became a Buddhist, actually.
No kidding.
Yeah. But so Cepeda, obviously a great year that year in '67. That's his lone MVP season, but he is still as a Hall of Famer and you know, has put up great numbers. So, you know, I mainly think of him as, you know, sort of appearing on, you know, the New York Giants. San Francisco Giants. Excuse me, they were in San Francisco by '58. So yeah, '58 he started with the San Francisco Giants, and then went over to St. Louis in '66. So got him in '66.
At age 28, that's a good age to get him at.
Yeah, right. He's in his prime at that point. And, you know, he just started just firing on all cylinders in '67, his next year. And the, you know, Cardinals just really just took control of the NL at that point. So he ended up hitting .325, had 21 game-winning hits.
Damn.
So wow. That's a difference maker right there. You know, I don't know what calculated his WAR was, but
it was 6.8. 6.8 that year. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It was in the top. It was in like the top 3 or 4, I think.
Yeah. So he's
Flush.
Yeah. So he was a unanimous choice for MVP, which and also first Latin player to win the home run RBI titles. So.
Wow.
Puerto Rican player, and you know, so and then, you know, he was with St. Louis until '68, and then his later career he was with the Braves when Hank Aaron, you know, near the end when Hank Aaron was near the end of his career with the Braves, and then he actually got traded to Oakland for another former MVP and Denny McLain. Denny McLain won the following year in '68. So yeah, big trade there. For at least in terms of names. Although Cepeda's knee at that point, by the time he reached Oakland in the early '70s, you know, was really starting to bother him. So he actually was the first player to sign a contract to exclusively play DH. So this was, you know, the advent of the DH. This would have been like '73. Sure. And, you know, he ended up actually, you know, for Oakland, putting together a pretty strong campaign in '73 with 289, 20 homers, 86 RBIs. So yeah, you know, even though the knee was bothering, the knee was bothering him. The end of the career, you know, his career was starting to wane. And by '74, I believe it was pretty much all over.
In Kansas City.
That? In Kansas City. In KC. Yeah, right. In KC. Yep. So yeah. So yeah, good. But, you know, his life really takes an interesting turn in like the early '70s. For one, he was always a stoner. All right. So he pretty much said he was smoking weed still while he was in his prime since '65, he said. And just kind of reading here, he after he got out of baseball, would have been like '75. He went to Puerto Rico to like host like a baseball clinic. Obviously, he's pretty much one of the premier Puerto Rican players. So he's, you know, legendary status down there at that point. Still is, but especially then. And he hooked up with some dudes. I don't know the whole story, but I kind of want to read the book, a book about Cha-Cha now, and then also I think his life would make a pretty good movie. He met these drug dealers down there, and they had asked him to take 5 pounds of grass in his bags at the airport. I don't know if the logic was, he's a celebrity, especially in Puerto Rico. He's not going to get, nobody's going to hassle him, whatever. But yeah, he got pinched. And he ended up then, got arrested, obviously. And then he got arrested a second time while he was still on trial for holding a gun to a dude. And then still some more drug charges, like in the late 70s. Basically, like, everything was. He lived in a halfway house in Philadelphia for a little while in the late 70s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Everything got taken away.
Yeah, right. So like the late 70s for him were some pretty dark years. And then he started to turn it around in the early 80s. He's actually was a scout for the White Sox for a little while. And he converted to Buddhism in the early 80s. And, he cites that as, his transformation, really. Since then, he's been, like, just really involved in a lot of charity work. I mean, it was a real cliche, but it's a real about face, I mean, he credits the Buddhism with turning his life around. And I like to hear it, because obviously, I want the guy to be as, the best Orlando Cepeda he can be, of course. But, he seems like just a little bit cut from a different cloth, I don't know if a movie has ever been in the works, but it sounds like some very cinematic things went on in the 70s. Sure. and then with his conversion in the 80s. So Cha-Cha led, has led, he's still alive, has led a pretty fascinating life. So
no kidding. Wow.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. Yep. Got in the Hall of Fame in the mid 90s. So
right.
It looks like 1999, actually late 90s. Excuse me. He got in. So. Oops. Or am I right about that? Yeah. He's in the Hall of Fame. Sometime in the 99.
Okay.
Yeah. So just a great player with a fascinating life. 11-time All-Star. 2-time NL RBI leader. So he did some damage, definitely.
I do have one more point about the Red Sox that year. That coming in, I said that. Well, you said in the opening that they finished 9th out of 10 teams. The previous 2 seasons, they finished under 500 for 8 consecutive seasons going into 1967, and that's hence the impossible dream. Was nobody expected this team to really compete because they came nowhere close. So 8 losing seasons going into 1967. Since then, the Boston Red Sox have had 9 losing seasons from 1967 to present. So it really was a sea change for that franchise. Got them turned around and competing somewhat regularly. They went to the World Series in 75 and 86, of course, where they lost. But they were always at least competing for the most part. It really was a sea change.
Cool.
Well, yeah, there was a big sea change in music in 1967 as well.
Absolutely. Probably 1967 laying the groundwork for most of the albums that all of us cherish,
right.
I mean, obviously,
66 had a little, like, there's some records in 66 that are pretty amazing too, but like 67 just seemed like they opened the floodgates.
Yeah, it was it's a cliche, but a real turning point. So 67. We'll share some albums that we like a lot from that year. I've got a list that's kind of like the non-Sgt. Pepper's list.
Sgt. Pepper's is assumed in this conversation.
Well, yeah. Like,
so I don't think we need really dissect that.
I was going to say,
much.
Sgt. Pepper's, like maybe The Doors self-titled, Are You Experienced? You know, they're great records. Everybody knows this.
But those have all been covered pretty extensively.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I'll start, I guess. If you don't mind, I'll an album this is something an album that's I've been drawn to more recently. I wouldn't say I probably got into it until maybe within the last 5 years. I'd always known it for the artwork on the cover, and I'd always heard people say oh, that album's important, even though the band didn't really reach the heights that maybe they should have. They definitely didn't, and that's the album's Forever Changes by Love. Obviously, if you look at the album cover, it's got a imagery that's very evocative of 1967, very psychedelic looking, but yet kind of minimal album cover. And this album, man, it's so well recorded and it's so layered, and it is psychedelic. But not as much as some of those albums that Levi had just mentioned. Like Are You Experienced is, really that is the start of that era, and The Doors to a certain degree as well, and Sgt. Pepper's too. This album almost has a little bit of I wouldn't say it's as psychedelic as some of those others that we just mentioned. It's almost got there's horns on it as well, and it's just a really gorgeous record, and I think with one of the best opening tracks of all time, in Alone Again, and just start to finish, just a phenomenal record, and unfortunately, really the only feather in Love's cap. If anybody's ever read up about the lead singer for Arthur Lee for Love, the guy led a pretty troubled life. Just in prison, drugs, all those kind of succumbed to all those cliches, unfortunately, and then died about 12 years or 11 years ago. But this album, it was probably one of the albums over the last 5 years or so that's just really grabbed me, and I think that it's I think almost as important as some of those the other iconic albums that came out that year. And I mean, it's a musician's album. I mean, obviously, a lot of people whose music I admire like that record a lot. I know. I think Noel Gallagher, it's one of his favorite records. I know.
Jim Morrison always said Love was his favorite band.
Wow.
Okay, cool. So it's just a really great, just phenomenal album. So yeah, pick it up.
If anybody out there's never heard of it, it's definitely, it was just one of those cases where there were so many great records out that year, and
it gets overshadowed.
It got overlooked.
There's so many iconic records that came out that year. I mean, we're not even going to have time to talk about all of them tonight. But it's obviously very critically acclaimed, but its status didn't. It grew after. Years after. I
would say it was maybe 4 or 5 years ahead of its time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
At least, in 73, it might have been huge. Or
yeah, right.
72.
Yep. So that's that. Gosh, it's one of my favorite records of that year, and I feel like I get something new, out of it every time I listen to it.
Right on.
That's my choice for 67. A couple others I just want to mention briefly. I really like Dolly Parton's first record from that year. Hello, I'm Dolly Parton. Really good production values on it. And 1967, country was the changes in society weren't necessarily hitting country music as quickly as they were rock and roll. But I think that for Dolly, you know, it's an important album for a female artist. You know, if you listen to some of the songs on there, you know, I think they're much more assertive, you know, than some other country music female singers from that era.
Opening with a song called "Dumb Blonde" is
always a song called "Dumb Blonde." Yeah,
gets you there.
And it's really smart, and it's an important record. I think I don't often, you know, like when we talk about, like, you know, popular albums by female artists, I don't know how often that one's brought up. You know, I mean, maybe because it's a country record, but, you know, people always mention, like, you know, Patti Smith and you know, the Runaways, and there's Janis Joplin, and there's others I'm forgetting, but I think that one deserves to be mentioned, particularly because it's in a genre where I think what she was saying was a bigger assertion and a more a greater challenge to the establishment than, you know, it's harder to say those things in country, I think. Right. You know,
to her audience, sure.
Yeah, than it would be, you know, for somebody like Patti Smith to say.
Yeah, Patti Smith is speaking to the choir,
right?
Pretty much.
And it's 10 years later, you know, but still. So yeah, that one, and then also this is one of my favorite album covers because I think, you know, she's so striking looking. Miles Davis' girlfriend at the time, and I think they got married for a little while, Cicely Tyson, on the cover of 1967's Sorcerer record. It's one of my favorite album covers, and also the music to back it up. This is like kind of a transition period for Miles. You know, like it even though it's 67, it still sounds, because I think there's a song on there that was recorded a few years earlier. It still sounds like the early 60s kind of Miles, but it's a little more aggressive. So, you know, like 2 years later for that guy, like when Bitches Brew come out, like, I mean, things changed dramatically. You know, the whole fusion era started for him. It became, like Levi said, became funkier. I like this record a lot because it's kind of a bridge between those two eras of Miles, and also he put out another great record that year, Miles Smiles, as well. So really prolific time period for that guy, and you know, the changes afoot. I always think it's exciting to listen to the record before, like, the big one, you know, like, or the big one that changed. You know, like we mentioned Sgt. Pepper's earlier. The Sgt. Pepper's iconic status kind of makes me appreciate Revolver a little bit more, because I think it's totally like the groundwork for it, you know, lays the groundwork for Sgt. Pepper's. And I would argue that's the case with the two records that Miles put out that year, Miles Smiles and Sorcerer. They're, you know, kind of one foot in the early 60s and sort of slowly inching towards the late 60s.
Well, yeah, you talked about Dolly Parton being, you know, a woman speaking her mind. Also, we had Bobbie Gentry that year with the Ode to Billy Joe record, which came out of kind of nowhere. Just the you know, just with everything, all the societal, economic, you know, war, whatever issues going on, that song on the radio seems like kind of, you know, like an escape almost. You know what I mean? It's like laid back Southern drawl type, kind of almost like a blueprint for that lazy country funk that would come later in a few years. And like, it just, the sound of that song is amazing, and the whole record's good. The song Mississippi Delta is really good off that album. The Grateful Dead, I have to mention, came out with their first record that year on Warner Brothers. Obviously, it didn't sell well like most of their studio records, but that was monumental. One of my favorite, though, albums from that year is by Wes Montgomery, and it's his A Day in the Life, and he obviously does the Beatles song. And there's some other covers on there as well. If you've never heard it, it's a really great album. The Bar Case, Soulfinger. I got to mention that. You know, one of the first true kick butt funk records that I ever heard. And another Buffalo Springfield self-titled was an important record that year, along with the Youngbloods self-titled. Two good bands coming out. And then a record I've recently gotten into that I happened to find like a mint condition copy of, which got me into it. And it just sounds so great. It's Jackie Wilson's Higher and Higher.
Ah, yeah. Nice.
And the whole album's great, but that song is just like pure 60s like soul perfection.
Was Jackie Wilson like on Motown, or would that have been like...
This is on Brunswick.
Okay, all right, yeah. Okay.
I believe. I could double check that, but yeah. So yeah, those are my album highlights of the year.
The Bobbie Gentry one, I love the story of it too, Levi. Like just I mean, it's like Southern Gothic. You know what I mean? It's like Carson McCullers could have written the story. You know what I mean? I mean, it's such a good tale.
Yeah.
Didn't they write a book after it about it? Betsy said that there's a book written about the song.
Yeah, I mean, it's like...
Oh, is there?
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if there is, but like it's almost like
they developed it after the song was written.
I don't know that. One of the interesting things is, everybody, a large group of listeners, obviously, when it came out, and when people still hear it today, people are automatically like, what are they throwing off the bridge? Why did Billy Joe die? Like, what is going on? But, like, she always stated in interviews that she wanted people to think about the whole indifference of it all.
Okay.
And how it's like, like the culture of, like, people just talking about people's lives and deaths and just over dinner and could you pass the peas or the biscuits?
Right.
Like
sort of small town stories.
Yeah. And her story is, like, she entertained and stuff up until, like, the late 70s and then basically vanished. Like she's passed away now, but yeah, she didn't perform at all. Like after the late 70s, or might have been like 1980 could have been her last performance, something like that. But yeah, she just kind of disappeared and didn't want really anything to do with that lifestyle.
Good choices, man.
Yeah, I'll spin that album tomorrow.
Yeah,
the Wes Montgomery is a great morning record too.
Yeah, actually, I think I own that, and that tells you the impact of Sgt. Pepper's. That same year, there was an album released with the title of using the title of one of the songs on that album,
and it's one of his seminal albums.
Right,
it's one of Wes Montgomery's like most well-known records.
Yeah, it's a hell of impact. Yeah.
So the two Stones records that came out that year would have been, their blatant attempt at a Sgt. Pepper's and Her Satanic Majesty's
I was going to bring up Satanic Majesty.
Sorry. All right.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Go ahead.
But I think they also put out. Oh shit! I should know this.
Beggar's Banquet would have been 68.
It's 68. It's before Her Satanic Majesty's Request.
Between the Buttons.
Between the Buttons. Thank you. Yeah. Which is good. That's a good record.
So, but to segue to their Satanic Majesty's Request, the album at best is uneven, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's got some cuts on there that are pretty solid, but the rest
She's a Rainbow's great. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think some of the Sing This All Together is not bad. 2000 Man and 2000 Light Years from Home. By the way, according to Setlist FM, 2000 Light Years from Home is the only song on that album that they've ever played live.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's hard to get past, first of all, the heavy-handedness of the title and the cover.
Yeah.
Especially as it relates to Sgt. Pepper's. And not that the title is similar to Sgt. Pepper's, but it kind of has this similar feel.
It does,
yeah. It's embarrassingly so.
Yeah, that's just not them being them. It's
They were just trying to sell records that year, basically.
Yeah, I think so. I'm sure there was a push for it. I'm sure industry people were like,
Well, and that was the start of Brian Jones like hard partying and like contributing like he had been on. Like he was the driving force behind all the early blues influence and stuff.
Right. Yeah, it was a bit of a, as much as I love the Stones, a bit of a contrived affair, that one.
I mean, some of it's just like throwaway noodling, really, at best.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a few cuts on there that.
Yeah.
Everybody remembers the gimmick cover, though. It was like a sport flick baseball card.
Yeah, right. The first sport
flick. The originals were the first pressings.
Lenticular, is that what they call it?
I believe so.
Yeah. No one, as far as debut records that year, you guys mentioned the Doors. I'm sorry, Levi, are you done with all your choices? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Did you? I didn't mean to. And then Jonathan, sorry, I think I interrupted here. The Doors was a debut record. Also, Piper at the Gates of Dawn came out that year too, 67. So.
Yeah, there's some great YouTube. There's a great, I shouldn't say great, it's an interesting 1967 Pink Floyd video on YouTube that's just like 15 minutes of Interstellar Overdrive. It depends how long it'll hold your attention. It held mine for about 5.5 minutes until I changed it, but a lot of go-go boots and dresses and dancing wildly to a beat that isn't quite there, but it's a fun album. It was for Sam.
Yeah, has anyone mentioned Vanilla Fudge yet? No.
Oh
well, that's a kick-ass record, man. That's granted, the bulk of it's covers, but what a take on those covers, man.
For sure.
That's another record that just over the last few years I've gotten into quite a bit, and it's great.
The unsung hero, I think, of that record is the backup vocals.
Yeah,
the harmonies, the vocals on that record are great.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, good point. And then. Just Carmen's just such a beast on the drums.
So it seemed like for most of their career, or the band's lifespan, it's mostly covers, right? For Vanilla Fudge.
Yeah, it is. They had a good take on covers. Another band that was really skilled at covers that I don't say I confuse them with Vanilla Fudge, but you could see how one would. Their first record, I don't think, came out until the following year, is Blue Cheer, as well. They kind of remind me of Vanilla Fudge, but their first record came out in '68, so another episode.
Speaking of debuts, I was most taken by the Procol Harum debut from '67, self-titled, which apparently came out after the big single, but the British version didn't actually have the Knights of White Satin on the album. The American version does.
And was Robin Trower on that? Was he with them then?
Let me check. He was either with them then or very.
He came in like the tour, like he might have not played on the record, but played on the tour or something like that. I think.
Right.
Because he was with them a long time.
He is, He is a personnel on that album. I don't think he played on, or I'm sorry, I said Nice White Satin, A Whiter Shade of Pale. I don't think he played on A Whiter Shade of Pale. But yeah, he plays on that album. But yeah, that album, talk about sounding like good production. That album sounds really fresh and like it could have been recorded yesterday.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Also, another good one. You mentioned Nice and White Satin. Days of Future Past as well came out that year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Great year for music.
Yeah. Jesus, gosh, we're going all night. Man.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't even touched on there's probably some killer Buck Owens records that year.
There's Killer Country. I mean, Supremes put out a couple good records that year.
Even the Monkees started writing their own music and
put
out a couple records. Yeah.
Headquarters came out. Yeah.
Don't underestimate Michael Nesmith. He can
I
write
agree.
some tunes.
One of my favorite Monkees songs is actually a B-side, or I had never heard it until they did the remaster of Headquarters, and it's on there as like an extra track. Because I'm pretty positive it's not on my vinyl. It's called All Your Toys or All My Toys or something like that.
Okay.
It's my favorite Monkees song. It's great. Or Just Like All Your Toys or something like that is the name of the song. But yeah, it's a great Monkees tune. And it's interesting because you can immediately tell it's not studio musicians playing the instruments.
Mm-hmm.
Like not that I'm saying there's like tons of off notes, but you could just tell it's looser. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like the Beach Boys' backing band playing for the Monkees, which it basically was up until then.
Right. So would you guys pick any contemporary bands to cover any of these songs from '67?
Yeah. I got one.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll take for Love Forever Changes, just the whole record. I'll take My Morning Jacket doing it.
Nice. The whole record?
Yeah, do the whole thing.
Nice. Yeah, they could do it. They could pull it off.
Yeah. So that's my choice.
Right on.
You go next, Jonathan.
Okay.
While I'm looking up to try and verify some facts here.
Okay. I was thinking, and I just did a single track here, although the band's capable of it, but the Flaming Lips have never covered Traffic. And in '67, Traffic released Mr. Fantasy.
That's just what I was looking up. Yeah.
Well, okay, that's '67. Okay, I thought it was '68. Yeah. All right, cool.
I believe it's '67.
It is.
I could
right.
I could stand corrected, just like Procol
is,
Harum didn't perform Nights in White Satin.
But the funny thing with this, it's the opposite of Robin Trower, where Dave Mason played on this record and then left the band basically right after it. He was like in and out of Traffic 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, because he plays on Welcome to the Canteen. That was like his last stint.
Some would say he was weaving in and out of Traffic.
Right.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun. Thank you.
Shot. All
Podcast over. We're done. Last episode. Rim shot. Go.
So anyway, I would take.
Bartender.
I want to hear the Flaming Lips take on Colored Rain.
Oh, that would be good.
Yeah. To hear Wayne Coyne just barely hit the notes on Colored Rain. Yeah, that would be good. And then actually, Levi, you mentioned Buffalo Springfield. Buffalo Springfield also released again that year, correct? '67.
Oh, they put out 2 albums that year.
Yeah. Right. And On Again is an amazing tune called Broken Arrow to close out the record. Like 6 minutes, it's a pastiche of different movements. And actually, I don't have to wish this band has done it because they have done it and they do it excellently. Wilco covering Broken Arrow off of Buffalo Springfield. It's on YouTube. Nice. Check it out. They execute it meticulously. Highly suggest it.
Nice.
Yeah, well, shoot. Okay, this is just off the top of my head. It would be cool to see, I'm trying to think who has horns nowadays. I guess Tedeschi Trucks has horns nowadays. What other bands have big horn sections?
My Morning Jacket sometimes has horns.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was thinking. It'd
be cool to see somebody.
There has to be some flexibility there. But.
Yeah, like it would be cool to see, like, I don't know. I guess Tedeschi Trucks do like Soulfinger or it would be cool to hear, I don't know, somebody do Golden Road to Unlimited Devotion by the Dead. I always thought that was a good song off the first record.
Yeah.
I don't even know who, though. I don't listen to new music. New music finds me, and I just grasp at it and try and grab it. It's like how I found out about that Marty Stewart. I had never known.
You're a man of another time, Levi.
Well,
anybody want to hear cover So You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star that the Byrds put out that year?
Right. Yeah, that would be a good one.
Petty's done it, obviously.
I was going to say, yeah.
What year? What yesterday? What Birds album came out in '67?
Younger Than Yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday. Right.
Yeah. My Back Pages is on there as well.
Cool. Oh, nobody. Well, it's an iconic one, but nobody mentioned Surrealistic
right.
Pillow.
Yeah, Jefferson Airplane. Right.
Yeah.
They put out 2 albums that year too.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a pretty iconic album.
Yeah. Oh, I think so. Yeah, definitely. Cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, you want to show some cards?
Let's show our cards, guys. Let's wrap it up here. Show our cards. Yeah. So thanks for dipping into 1967 with us. On that note, some baseball cards. Not a lot of 1967 cards among our collections, so we're actually just going to be... Jonathan, you can superimpose these on the screen, I would assume, or something.
I'm going to show them from my phone.
Okay, show them from the phone. Okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, go for it, man. Go ahead and start.
All right. I'll start with... Actually, I'm going to cheat and do 2. One is a Chicago Cub. Sorry, Levi. And this was a 7-year pitcher. He had he had a 13-30 career win-loss record. Arnold Early. If you can see him there. He's got a killer set of shades on.
Well, he's going to the shooting range, it looks like.
Yeah, right.
I love that. He's got these yellow shades on, and that this was a time when they could just match the Cubs letters to be whatever color that they wanted, like whatever color is most predominant in the photo. And so they just chose yellow because the Cubs have never been yellow, but they can do that then. Arnold Early really stuck out there. But yeah, he's definitely going the shooting range. And then this other one, Bob Bull, pitcher for the Phillies. I saw it and I had to include it because
God,
it reminded me so much of Ray Donovan. I think there's a relation there.
But Bob Bull, he lives right here, dude.
Yeah. You don't fuck with Bob Bull. You don't. I don't want to be the coach that has to take him out of a ball game.
Well, yeah. He was a pitcher, so he's the pitcher. If he hit you with one, you trotted to first base.
Put your head down. And... But yeah, Ray Donovan's father.
The guy that took Bob Bull's daughter to prom. He's never been seen. He just disappeared. Yeah, mysterious circumstances.
Oh man. So yeah, those are my 2 cards. Levi, you want to intro your card here, and I'll show it.
Yeah, my card is actually a card I have in my giant box of baseball cards that's in storage, but it's a 1967 Topps Carl Yastrzemski, and it's the year he was an MVP or the Triple Crown. Yeah, it's been in my collection a long time, since the late 90s. It was one of the first cards I ever owned that I put in a screw down holder.
Ooh,
so
you
knew it was fancy. Because there's a screw in the holder. Yeah.
I've got my Carlton Fisk rookie card in one. I know what you mean.
Yeah, I think I have this as a 1987 Turn Back the Pages card.
Yeah. I had both.
I remember the Turn Back the Pages cards. Yeah.
Good looking cards.
Mine here, let's be honest. Nobody ever got excited when we were a kid when we got a checklist in the cards, right? Right? You're like, God damn it!
You got screwed.
Right.
Till the advent of Upper Deck, because their checklists were those Vernon Wells ones. Those kick butt.
This is true. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, the art.
All Topps checklists.
Yes.
Topps checklists were literally like
front and back checklists. Yeah.
It was just like pack filler. You're like, great.
Yeah, and this is the same way, but I like the fact that they put at least Roberto Clemente's head on the checklist.
Oh, it scooted over a little bit.
Oh,
there you go. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So at least, I don't know, that makes them look a little bit better,
chips,
right?
Right?
Yeah, right. At least it's got a dude's face on it. It's just a head.
Put Clemente on there.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about those checklists, though, is that you would use that like a Bic pen on it. On the front, it was glossy; it wouldn't work as well. On the back, it worked fine because it wasn't glossy.
The fronts would smear.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like you'd really have to hammer down on it to get the ink to come out on the front.
So
Good stuff.
Anywho, well, thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. I want to remind everybody that you can listen to every single episode of Rock and Roll Shin-Soo Chew at rockchew.com. You can also find us on iTunes, all major podcasting applications. Don't even have to download it. You can stream it. So tell us how you chew, and let all your friends know as well. You can follow us on Instagram and the Twitter at RockInChew. That's N as in... let's say N as in... I don't know. Sorry.
Coming up, I've got no song titles here.
Yeah.
No face, no name, no number.
Okay, all right.
Off of Traffic's Mr. Fantasy.
Good. All right, so at RockInChew on Twitter and Instagram. Also, you can like us on Facebook. And please leave us a review on iTunes as well. That would help us out a lot. And we look forward to seeing everybody for episode number 80. And have a good night.
Peace.